Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Stretch! You can put it on the board! Yes!
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York and, of course, the filet mignons and the king of all those massive and cowboy-cut tomahawk ribeyes. Man, those are good. Even those Prime Wagyu and Angus burgers are the best I've ever had. Probably be the best you ever had. Again, everything is USDA Prime, not choice. It's all Prime, as good as it gets. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call and find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. And welcome in to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates, and all of our independents from Honolulu all the way down to Florida and a whole bunch of points in between. Thanks for also watching us on social media, whether it's YouTube or on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for joining us there. Also, everybody on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, Oceanic, and WOW Cable Television affiliates, plus Hotel TV in all Nielsen-rated markets. Thanks for joining us on television as well. All right, how about a little college football? College football is a great thing, and everybody in SEC country that's listening to us in Alabama and Georgia and Florida. Listen, folks, we've got the heart of the football season right here. And let's face it, let's get right to the rankings here, because we already know that Georgia is still ranked number one as they started the season. But guess what? Not too far behind is Michigan. Now, Georgia had a real nice win at Kentucky, 51-13. Very nice one. And now Georgia gets Cupcake City. They go over to Nashville, and they get to play the Commodores of Vanderbilt with the big star on their hat. Well, guess what? Those guys with the star down in Dallas, boy, they really had their hats handed to them recently, but we'll get back to that over in the next segment or so. Anyway, Georgia rolls into Nashville for a 9 a.m. Pacific time or noon Eastern game in Nashville. That ought to be an easy win for Georgia, maintaining their number one spot. But now over at the number two slot is the Wolverines of Michigan. Also, 6-0 with a real nice win at home against Minnesota, a feisty club, not nearly the powerhouse, of course, that Michigan is, but at the same time, Michigan easily handed Minnesota a simple loss, and that's why they're ranked number two. In fact, they are about 60, maybe they're 70 votes behind Georgia for the number one slot. Georgia's going to stay there at least through another week, because Michigan gets to play at home against Indiana. Not really a tough opponent, and then also is a noon Eastern time game. Now, ranked number three is Ohio State. They actually go up one slot, and they sit 81 points behind Michigan for that number two spot. But mind you, this is the AP Top 25, so Ohio State stays at number three. Actually, they jump up from number four to number three, 5-0. With a nice win at Maryland. They win by 20, 37-17. And Ohio State travels to West Lafayette to play the Purdue Boilermakers at noon Eastern on Saturday. Moving into number 4, taking Ohio State's spot, is the Florida State Seminoles. Florida was 5, they go to 4, and they had a real nice win at Va-Tech. They win 39-17, and they host Syracuse next Saturday. Again, that's a noon Eastern game. Oklahoma charges all the way up 7 slots to number 5 by dumping Texas 34-30 in the Red River rivalry. And of course, Oklahoma is going to face their future Big 12 opponent in the University of Central Florida. That's led by Gus Malzahn. They have a week off to celebrate that victory. So they play on the 21st against Gus Malzahn and the Central Florida Knights. We'll see what happens there. Remember, Oklahoma doesn't really play a whole lot of defense. In fact, Lincoln Riley brought that over to USC, basically winning games by, 2 or 3 or 5 points or whatever the hell it is, but outscoring everybody basically, 55-54, those kind of games. Now, staying number 6 is Penn State. Penn State with an easy win against Northwestern, 41-13. Next week, they host Cupcake City, UMass. Again, Penn State will at least stay there unless they don't win by at least 30 points. I'm not really sure about that one. Washington, a very good squad, a very good Washington team, with the former Fresno State coach and the former, well, let's put it this way. Never mind all that stuff. Washington is a good squad, and Washington, well, they didn't really have a tough win on their hands. And, well, let's face it, Washington next week, if they get to play Oregon. So we're going to see who the real top teams are in the Pac-12. And, of course, this is the last year for the Pac-12. Needless to say, the disbandment, essentially, of the conference. Still waiting to find out where Oregon State and Washington State go. But nonetheless, Washington's a solid 7. And, of course, Oregon with an easy win over Stanford, 42-6. And, of course, next week they're playing at Washington up in Seattle. And that ought to be one hell of a game where it's Penix and Bo. And that would be Bo. Everybody in Auburn, Alabama knew who hell I'm talking about. So, who is it going to be? Is it going to be Penix or is it going to be Bo? Not really sure what's going to happen there. Oregon looks pretty good. And everybody in Auburn, you may have been complaining about Bo Nix, saying, well, Bo was this and Bo was that. Well, guess what? Bo is in a pretty good situation in Oregon. Now the bigger question is, can he do well at the next level? Because we already know he could do well playing big-time football, whether it's the SEC or whether it's the Pac-12. So Oregon is a solid number 8, and they're gonna play at Washington next week. Number 10, or number 9, better yet, is Texas. They dropped 6 slots because of their loss to Oklahoma, and that was a road loss. But Texas, they're good, but they're not that good. It is what it is. And like USC, yes, they're undefeated. And USC actually dropped a slot from 9 to 10 with their abysmal overtime win at Arizona. I mean, it was a little bit embarrassing, to be honest with you. And, of course, next week, SC travels to South Bend to play Notre Dame. And, again, Notre Dame happens to be a defensive squad. We'll see what happens there if SC could actually play a defensive game because, look, you can't score 40, 50 points every game. I wouldn't think so, nonetheless. And this is a road game, and Notre Dame does play a little bit of defense. So I'm looking for a game in the upper 20s, maybe lower 30s. I don't think Notre Dame can score with them. So this might be one of those 31-28 type of games. Either way, SC hasn't covered the spread for the most part, largely all season, and don't figure for them to cover the spread against Notre Dame. Coming in at number 11. Number 11 happens to be who? Number 11 is Alabama. Alabama comes in at number 11 with their win over Texas A&M. Next week they draw Arkansas. That ought to be a good one as well. And, of course, we have, I wonder if loyal listener Larry wants to jump on the show. We're going to put him on speaker and see if, Larry, do you have any comment on Alabama coming in at number 11? What are your thoughts there?
I think it's too low.
You think it's too low. Now, we did cover Washington at number 7 quickly, and we talked a little bit earlier, just you and I did, about Penix and the Fresno State coaching staff. What do you have to say about Washington? And I won't get to Fresno State, not just yet in this segment, but what do you think about Washington and where they stand right now?
Until you stop Penix, you're not going to stop Washington. They've got a great defense. They got a dynamite offense, and they're going to, I'll tell you what, it's going to be hard for somebody to beat them, including Oregon.
Well, and they do draw Oregon next week, and that, in fact, is up in Seattle. And, boy, that really figures to be one heck of a shootout between two Heisman hopefuls. Not really sure which one that one's going to go, but I have to say that the home team will probably end up with a 3 or 4 point line. There'll probably be -3 or 4, right, is what I'm guessing, because the home field is worth 3. But on a neutral field, who wins that game, loyal listener Larry? What do you think? Okay. Still waiting for some feedback from loyal listener Larry. So if we can't hear him, we're going to have to check back with him on the break. But at the end of the day, we'll have to find out what happens with Oregon. Now, again, talking about SC is going to travel to Notre Dame. Not really sure what's going to happen there, but again, that should be a lower scoring affair because SC doesn't do well against defensive clubs. Alabama, we just covered. Coming in at number 12 to finish out this segment is the Chapel Hillbillies of North Carolina. They get themselves an easy win at Syracuse, 40-7. But then again, they draw Miami, a little bit tougher of a squad next week. And of course, that's a 7:30 Eastern time for everybody in the Eastern time zone. Tell you what, folks, we're going to be back here on the Circus in just a few moments. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere. We're going to continue with the top 25. Back in a few.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UppercutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UppercutChops.com.
You're listening to the Sports Circus, and I'm Mike Golick.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas at the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, make sure you check out the sportscircus.com with all of our, or actually for all of our affiliates, and also check out the featured guest page. Lots of featured guests. Boy, we have some incredible guests from sports and entertainment and, wow, business, you name it, we have it. Lots of great guests here at the Sports Circus. And of course, make sure you check out the sportscircus.com's partners page. Lots of great partners over there. One of those is the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Yes! All righty. Talking about the top 25, talking about the top 25, and, you know, the top 10, I think those teams are going to move around quite a bit. I really do. As a matter of fact, the top 10 are going to move around, maybe even the top 15. And let's continue on. We left off with North Carolina at number 12 with an easy win at Syracuse. And, you know, actually, Syracuse is a very confusing team. Not really sure what to make of those guys. How about an even more confusing team? That'd be Ole Miss. Ole Miss, loaded with offense, go up 3 spots to number 13 with a win, yes, at Arkansas. Now, they draw Auburn in 2 weeks, so everybody in WAUD country, big welcome in, by the way, to everybody listening in on WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves. Nice round of applause for everybody over there. All right. And as a matter of fact, everybody over in Atlanta, Georgia, thanks for joining us on WDJY. WDJY, I want to say that nice and slow. WDJY, 99.1 FM. Thanks for joining us over there. WBGY over in Southwest Florida. That'd be Marco Island and Naples and all those wonderful places. All the way over to Las Vegas, KJPT, Jackpot Radio. Everybody may be listening in Southern California on KCAA. 106.5, 102.3 FM, 1050 AM. Our friends over there, we held the top slot over there, or the 5 p.m. slot for, wow, many, many, many years. Great stuff. Thanks for joining us. If you are listening in on our recorded shows through NBC and CNBC Financial, as well as over in Honolulu on KHKA, CBS Sports 1500. That's home of the New York Yankees and the Alabama Crimson Tide, who we talked about in the last segment, and everybody else on our affiliates, independents from coast to coast, and over 200 of them with another network that we're on that we're not going to say just yet because we're about to put a press release out. All right, and everybody on TV, you know who they are. Okay, so again, Ole Miss has a week off, and they play on the 21st at Auburn. That ought to be a lot of fun. How about Louisville jumping up 11 spots? Louisville remains undefeated with an easy win over Notre Dame. And that was an easy win. This 13-point victory actually was a 20-point victory. If you watched the game, I watched the game, was doing cartwheels watching Notre Dame get their hats handed to them. What a beautiful sight that was. The hell, they should have lost the week before somehow at Durham, North Carolina over there. It's unbelievable that those Golden Dome hat people ended up getting themselves a victory, basically do beat themselves in that game. It was unbelievably awkward. Nonetheless, How about this one? How about Oregon State? In my opinion, Oregon State is the dark horse in the Pac-12 conference with an easy win 52-40 against Cal. Oregon State's one of those teams, despite the fact that they didn't really play much defense in this one, they are one of the few teams in the western, let's put it this way, west of the Mississippi River, that can actually play offense and defense. You know, they've got that big quarterback that came over from Clemson. I think he's the former baseball player, as a matter of fact. Nonetheless, I think his name is Ugalele. Nonetheless, those guys at Oregon State and Corvallis, boy, they can play. They are legit. In fact, next week, they draw UCLA, number 18th ranked UCLA, for an 8 p.m. Eastern game. 16 comes in at Utah. Actually, Utah comes in at 16. They jump 2 slots with, well, matter of fact, they didn't even play. They didn't even play, and I say they jumped 2 slots without playing. How do you like them apples? They're the ones, of course, that have Cal next week, because 2 weeks ago or a week ago, they didn't play a couple days ago. Nonetheless, they played Oregon State, and Oregon State beat them handily. Now, Duke did not play either with that terrible loss against Notre Dame, but they draw NC State 8 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. That ought to be one hell of a game, and that's going to be a home game for Duke. UCLA, as we just mentioned, they travel to Oregon State in a very, very difficult place to play. That ought to be a good game. Number 19, Rocky Top, jumps up 3 slots with a win against South Carolina. They draw Texas A&M next week at 3:30 Eastern. Another really good game. You know, these SEC games are a lot of fun. And here's a very underrated team, and that would be Washington State. They have a tough loss against UCLA, but this Washington State club is for real. And it's a shame. These two teams, Oregon State and Washington State, are trying to find a home, and they don't even know where to go right now. I think Oregon State may end up going with Oregon potentially to the Big Ten, and Washington State likely will go to the Mountain West. If not, both teams will go to the Mountain West because geographically they're really good fits. And, of course, we talked about Notre Dame dropping 11 spots. Yes! An enormous round of applause. Again, with that dismantling by Louisville. They drop 11 slots. That's the biggest mover in the polls. Gotta like that one. And, of course, they host the Trojans of SC and Lincoln Riley and his high-flying axe for that, well, the game that will probably lack a little defense. Anyway, coming in 22, up 1 is LSU with a very exciting game against Missouri, 49-39. And, of course, LSU draws, looks like they're drawing Auburn next week, as a matter of fact. And that is a 7 p.m. Eastern time tilt. Everybody over there in Auburn, Alabama. Make sure you watch that one. Everyone's going to be glued to that one, and we'll see what War Eagles got. Kansas remains at 23 with a win against Central Florida. They're at Oklahoma State next week. That'll be a real good one. Kentucky drops 4 slots with that ugly loss to Georgia, and they're hosting the Tigers of Missouri at 7:30 Eastern time. And to round out the top 25, it is Miami dropping 8 slots with an ugly loss to Georgia Tech. And, of course, they travel to Chapel Hill to play Carolina next week. So, you know, these rankings, they are what they are, folks. I don't really care much about that. But when we look at these games, we say, okay, this team is good and that team is good. And then we have, of course, what? The power rankings. And the power rankings are a little bit different, as you may be aware of. And so when you evaluate these teams, okay, fine. The rankings, that's the Associated Press's opinion, and then you have the USA Today and the coaches poll and all that other crap. Well, the power rankings actually tell a little bit more about these teams, in my opinion. And frankly, that's really what we're after. Now, CBS has a real nice write-up here. Of course, and they say, CBS Sports, according to them, despite what you may have heard, it was a pretty good week for the ACC. As we near the halfway point, there are 14 remaining undefeated teams. 11 are in the Power 5. 3 are in the ACC, which Florida State, Louisville, and North Carolina. That's the same number as the Big Ten, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and the Pac-12, Oregon, SC, and Washington. Now, 2 of those 2 teams play each other, so you're going to have 2 at the end of one, possibly 1 if USC loses to Notre Dame. However, there's a big difference. None of the ACC unbeatens play one another in the regular season. Now, that's kind of interesting. That sets up an interesting possibility. Yes, an undefeated ACC team could actually be left out of the college football playoff. Some people are applauding. Me, on the other hand, no, that's not fair. In fact, that's never happened in the college football playoff era since 2014 because there's never been a Power 5 undefeated that didn't play in its own conference championship game since its existence. So what happens there? Now, blame that, of course, that ridiculous realignment and the consolidation of the conferences, and, of course, blame the elimination of divisions as well. In the age of super conferences, teams don't even come close to playing all the opponents in their conference. In the 15 ACC teams, there are 7 missed each season. So you have to be warned, beginning next year, there is the real possibility of 10 of the 25 teams in this week's power rankings, they could be just from what? You guessed it, from one league? And of course, CBS Sports says we have a preview in the ACC. All 3 could win out, each finishing 12-0, and the league champion could finish 13-0. The loser of the championship game, 12-1. But that 12-0 golden child, it wouldn't even be eligible for what? The ACC championship game. So again, it's never happened in the CFP era, but according to ACC rules, it would come to the 5th tiebreaker to sort out the championship game participants, combined win percentage of conference opponents. And of course, we don't know that just yet. All right, we're going to get to these power rankings and the balance of this content in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. Back in a few. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
If you're tired of the fake news and tired of all the left-wing BS and agendas out there, if you want to do your right part to clean out the swamps and hit the lefties where it hurts, their pocketbook, we all know the president and his cronies hired thousands more IRS employees and agents. Now that's not very American. There's a way to fight back. Fellow conservatives out there, call American Tax Relief. They can help you pay less to the IRS. Don't you give a penny more to spend to the left-wing agendas. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes or haven't filed your taxes in years, call my friends at American Tax Relief. They'll give you a 100% free introduction to their program, and trust me, they're on the right side of your freedom. Pay the IRS less. Call now.
800-958-2157. 800-958-2157. That's 800-958-2157. Paid for by the Tax Doctor.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Hey, this is Josie Scott from Josie Scott's Saliva, and you're listening to the Sports Circus with Sal Tuzzolino.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com again for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, our recorded shows, which are available on all podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify or Google or Apple or Audible or, geez, I don't know. We're on all of them. Anyway, check that out at thesportscircus.com. And also, make sure that you check out the partners page. Lots of great partners over there, from pick your favorite automobile manufacturer to, of course, some of our friends. We're going to call out one of our friends, and that is Al's Italian Beef. Al's number one Italian beef at 1079 West Taylor in Chicago, in Chicago's Little Italy. That's on Taylor Street, 1079 West Taylor. Check them out at alsbeef.com. alsbeef.com. It's the home and birthplace of the Italian beef sandwich, not to be confused with that Philly cheesesteak sandwich. Very big difference. Italian beef sandwich is real cooking versus frying, and you can even ask Bones who owns Al's Italian Beef. Check them out at Al's Italian Beef. That would be 1079 West Taylor at alsbeef.com. 1079 West Taylor in Chicago, alsbeef.com. Boy, that's good food. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know who you are. TV, radio, the Mars rover. All right, we left off talking about the NCAA football power rankings, and we were talking from something that CBS Sports had put out there. And, of course, they were saying, look, we could have a problem with the ACC because technically the ACC, well, let's put it this way. If you have all three undefeated teams went out at this case, and those three undefeated teams are Florida State, Louisville, and North Carolina, there could be a real problem here. And of course, none of these teams could possibly make the CFP, and that in itself, that college football playoff, is what a broken system that is. But anyway, if there's a tie, of course the teams will be ranked by a priority or proprietary team rating score metric from Sports Source Analytics. Not really sure how that one works, but according to Drew Borland, co-founder of Sports Source Analytics, says, I doubt it ever gets to that sixth tiebreaker. I hope that scenario doesn't turn out, but the concept of these conferences getting bigger, and league members, of course, not playing each other is very, very real, close quote. Now, in an unlikely event that there is a tie, the ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips would draw the teams out of a hat or something like that in the first place. How ridiculous is that? Anyway, so let's get to these power rankings. So let's take a quick look at them. The biggest movers, of course, are Louisville goes up 12 in the power rankings. And, of course, Notre Dame goes down 14 in the power rankings. Gotta love that. Of course, Georgia comes in the top slot. Finally, this is all CBS Sports. Finally, we're writing about Carson Beck being a difference maker, and the Georgia quarterback completed his first 12 passes, and the Bulldogs were never threatened at all by a very good Kentucky team. All is forgiven, dogs. You do deserve to be better. Better yet, you deserve to be number one. Let's look at it that way. And yes, they are number one. And of course, after ridding themselves of a Kentucky threat, they end up being ranked number one anyway. Now, number two in the power rankings is Florida State. Now, Florida State comes in 4 in the actual rankings, but the ACC favorites scored the last 17 points to pull away from Va-Tech, but Va-Tech isn't that good. To be honest with you, folks, look, a very haphazard Purdue Boilermaker team went in and beat Va-Tech into their stadium. So I don't know. That could be a little blown up. But they say the Seminoles just keep getting stronger. Maybe so. I'm not sure. Oklahoma comes in at number 3 in these power rankings. And it only took 2 seasons for Brent Venables to get himself and the Sooners on their feet. And Venables' fingerprints were all over a goal line stand. Imagine that. Defense in Oklahoma, that really doesn't go together very often, at least during the Lincoln Riley era. And, of course, they forced a few turnovers that helped beat Texas. I think Texas might be a little bit overrated anyway. But nonetheless, good for Oklahoma jumping up 8 slots in those power rankings. Good stuff. Michigan stays number 4. Of course, good old Captain Quirk and that would be Jim Harbaugh posing with his defense after a pick 6 against Minnesota. What would you expect in this age of, this age of chaos? And, of course, it's way past time for the competition to be doing things like this. I don't know. I'm not really a big fan of any kind of celebrations and crap like that. Celebrate with your team after the victory, and that's it. Not after every play or every this or every that. It gets a little bit old. Ohio State remains number 5 in the power rankings. Well, after a sleepy start, the Bucs woke up against Maryland, and Kyle McCord, career-high 320 yards and a pick 6, yet is still finding his way. Marvin Harrison Jr., proving to be one of the best wideouts in the country, just like their old dad was in the bigs, and we'll say that in the NFL. This guy is all the way back. Texas drops 3 slots in those power rankings due to that loss against Oklahoma. Question is, where the Longhorns go from there? Starting to believe that an OU rematch will go the other way in the Big 12 championship game. For now, Texas is the nation's best one-loss team, according to these alleged power rankings, and it just can't afford another L in the second half against a manageable Big 12 schedule. Washington drops 1 slot. They didn't even play. They dropped 1 slot in these power rankings, which isn't really fair, but that's the way these things go, I suppose. Kalen DeBoer's name, that's the old Fresno State guy, is going to be at the top of several coaching vacancy lists. And frankly, I think he's got a good thing going over there in Washington, so he may not want to stay where he's at. I don't know, it seems a little reasonable to me. But assuming there are several on that list, who knows? I mean, there might be a vacancy somewhere in the NFL, but not a lot of hot seats on the moment. I'm not really sure about that. I mean, there's not a lot of highs and lows in the NFL. There's just a lot of bad teams. Look at it that way. So what are you going to do? Just put 20 new guys in? You can't really do that. But hard to believe that just 2 years ago, Washington's coach, of course, was where? At Fresno State. It's a solid Fresno State team that lost a really bad game at Wyoming. We'll get to that in a minute. Oregon also had a bye and is getting a little bit dicey there for a minute. And it wasn't really until Thursday that the Big Ten confirmed that the Oregon-Washington game would be among the league's 12 protected rivalries, and they should be, of course. All the new Big Ten teams should play amongst each other. That'd be UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington. They'll basically have their own division. I think they're going to add one more, so there's 4 divisions of 5 teams. That's why I said Oregon State might slip in there over Wazoo. But I think 4 divisions of 5 teams makes a little bit of sense. So those teams can play amongst one another and cut down the travel. Imagine being Oregon or Washington having to go all the way over to New York or New Jersey to play Rutgers or Maryland even. That's a long ways away, folks. So I would suspect the Big Ten will add one more of those teams. All right, number 9 in these power rankings, Penn State, they get a bye. And, of course, the win at Ohio State in about, 10 days or so might allow Penn State to punch its own playoff ticket, but we'll see what that looks like because it's an Ohio State team that's pretty good, but they're not great. Alabama comes at 10, not exactly a blueprint for winning on the road. At Texas A&M, the Tide ran for 23 yards and committed 9 pre-snap penalties. That's pretty bad out of 14 overall. This is why Jermaine Burton came to Bama. 9 catches, 197 yards, but Bama looked really, really bad on the ground. So that power ranking of 10 might be a little bit inflated. And, of course, Louisville jumps up 12 slots, as we mentioned at the top of the segment, actually at the end of last segment. So end of day, what do we have? We've got Louisville jumping up 12, Carolina jumping up 5. Not bad. SC dropping 3 to 13 after a big statement in the latest edition of the Pac-12 After Dark. I don't know. Somehow they found themselves in the winner's circle in overtime. Don't really know how that happened. Oregon State goes up 1, and that's the really good Oregon State team at 14. Ole Miss at 15. Of course, everyone loves a clutch, and the Rebels are clutch after scoring 15 straight points against LSU in the final 8 minutes of the prior week. Ole Miss rallied to beat Arkansas with a scoring drive halfway through the fourth, and of course, the loss to Bama hurts, but Lane Kiffin isn't done. A test week this week at Auburn coming up. Everybody over there in War Eagle country, we'll see what happens there. Now, Tennessee, Rocky Top goes up 2 slots with a bye. Imagine that. And Duke with a bye actually goes up 2 slots as well. So, UCLA at 18. They were not rated, so they've actually jumped into the rankings with a real nice win against Oregon State. Washington State drops 5. Yes, with that pick 6 that happened, was arguably the defensive play of the year. Otherwise, the Cougars melted down in the Rose Bowl with 4 turnovers against UCLA. Kentucky dropped 7 slots in these power rankings by CBS Sports. Not very good on their part. LSU, not rated, is currently rated at 21. Notre Dame had to swallow hard and keep fighting with that 14-spot drop. Yes, 14-spot drop. And, of course, that always deserves a round of applause. And, of course, the University of Houston, those Cougars, they had a bye. They still dropped a slot. Kansas, not rated, jumps to 24. And Wyoming with that win against what? Fresno State. Yes, you could place Craig Bull in 1963, 1973, 1983, 1993, or 2023, and he'd win. The 65-year-old has weaponized Wyoming's gritty toughness, 7,000 foot above sea level, and loyal following into consistent force in the Mountain West. An upset of Fresno State leaves the Cowboys playing league leader Air Force this coming week. Boy, what a wild week that was in college football. Wait to see what happens next week. We're going to shift into either baseball. Let's talk baseball in the next segment. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on The Circus. Back in a few.
Can't beat fun at the old ballpark, friends. High pop fly. That would be a home run in a phone booth. I don't know what the big deal about Cracker Jack is. Did you ever go and buy a pack of Cracker Jack thinking you'd get a prize and find no prize in the box? Here's the pitch. That might not sound important to some people, but when you're a little kid, especially from humble origin, and they cheat you out of a prize. There's a bouncing ball. Second baseman has a Barbary over to first. It's hard to think in laudatory terms of the product.
I think if there was an occasional box of Cracker Jacks that found no prizes for the little Harry Carey many years ago.
You got that right. And boy, when a box of Cracker Jack to me meant a lot of money. Here's a pitch, bounce foul. That's the most asinine marketing I've ever heard of. 1 ball, 1 strike. These guys say, well, you sing about Cracker Jack. I said that I only sing it because it's in the song. Here's a pitch, foul back. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised, even to this day, some youngsters who buy a box of Cracker Jack don't find a prize in the box. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 out. Well, if you're going to talk about our congressman being crooked, here's a pitch, foul out of play. Why not talk about commercial products that don't do what they represent to do?
There's a smash to Squires. He's got it. 1, 2, 3, nothing across. We're going to the bottom of the 7th now to score. All tied up. Milwaukee 4, the White Sox 4. Hey! Everybody! All right, Nancy, let me hear you. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back for its root for the White Sox. If they don't win, it's a There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be. And holy cow. This crowd is wild.
Hello, Jack McDowell here, Black Jack McDowell, and you're watching the Sports Circus, which is totally cool. So you have a great time watching. Have some fun.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, make sure you check out the sportscircus.com again, because we have lots of partners over there, and we want to acknowledge some of those partners. And, you know, sometimes we'll call out certain ones. College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Check them out for their upcoming games and events. That's College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Called out Al's Italian Beef, Al's #1 Italian Beef in the last segment. And you know what? There's lots of great books also over there. There's one by Pat Williams, the former general manager and one of the founders, the former CEO of the Orlando Magic. This guy happens to be great at the NBA draft, etc. And there's books by Tommy John and also by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Lots of great stuff. I have to tell you, folks, just take a browse at thesportscircus.com and go over to the partners page. Even Cali Vegas is over there. Cali Vegas, AMP TV. You know what? Just click on some of those, learn about them. It's because of them that we are continuously on air, and they're doing a great job in supporting us. So a nice round of applause, of course, for all of our partners at thesportscircus.com. All right, folks. All right. So let's take a quick look at the Major League Baseball playoffs. Boy, and this is turning out to be sort of, I wouldn't say it's predictable, because people say, you didn't predict this and you didn't predict that. Well, how could you say that? How could you possibly say that? Well, okay. Let me tell you a story back around from March of this year. Sal the Bookmaker from PlaceYourBet.Vegas, one of the top prognosticators in the business right here in Las Vegas, with a win percentage of over 84% against the Vegas line. You say, how is that possible? Nobody's doing it. I guess you better guess again, because all this picks, all those winners, they're all documented, and that is one hell of a record by Sal the Bookmaker, yours truly. Yes, against the line and with futures picks. So how about this one? Back in March, Sal the Bookmaker bought a ticket. As a matter of fact, I happen to have it right here in front of me. All right, let's open this thing up. And it is from Boyd Sports. This was made, I'll tell you exactly, March 31st of 2023 at 9:47 p.m. Sal the Bookmaker made a bet on what? The Texas Rangers outright to win the World Series. And the price was plus 5,000. That's a 50-1 shot. And yes, that little noise you're hearing, that is the ticket. And believe me, now, the Texas Rangers made very quick work of the Tampa Bay Rays, and they're making very quick work of the #1 seeded Baltimore Orioles. They're up 2-0 in a best of 5. One more win. Now Texas is going home to what? Play the Orioles at home, where Texas just knocks the cover off the ball. So yes, Sal the Bookmaker's got Texas, of course, winning everything. And in fact, I had made a side bet with somebody else that it was going to be a rematch with the Houston Astros, because, the Astros really had their number the last 2 series they played, and the Astros really laid it on them. Texas was at a low point, but somehow they have found their way to taking control of this divisional series. They're going to find themselves in the ALCS, likely against the current champion Houston Astros. And I don't know. I mean, look, Texas is peaking at a really good time right now. And the same thing, there's a team on the other side that I had basically given the same prediction for. So I've got the Rangers coming out of the American League. And of course, the Astros are tied with the Minnesota Twins, and the Twinkies have the best pitching in the American League that's left in the playoffs. So that's a very intriguing matchup. I'll take that intriguing from the sports angle from Ian Rakelli. Anyway, we always want to credit people because he always says intriguing. This intriguing, that. Well, that's intriguing. But I have to say that Houston likely will come out of that series, likely play the Rangers. The Rangers are going to find a way to beat Houston, even though Houston got the tiebreaker and they won the division. So Houston would be hosting that series. But boy, what a wild series that would be. It just seems to me that the Rangers are on a mission. Remember, they did a lot of moves in the offseason to find themselves a much better production team. And they had 2 guys in the top 5 in RBIs for the most part all season. And so even when it comes to wins against replacement, guys like Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, and on we go, these guys could just flat mash. I mean, Houston's got the same thing. Texas has better starting pitching. I think their bullpen's kind of coming around a little bit at the right time. I think they're going to edge out Houston in a long series to get into the World Series. Now, let's take a look at the other side of that bracket. And we've got the National League. And the other team that I had given people, and this was about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and I had said, in fact, earlier in the season, I bought a whole bunch of those Corbin Carroll rookie baseball cards. I mean, a bunch of them, because this kid is legit. He is, even though he did suffer with that Tommy John surgery, whatnot, and he lost some power, but he was a true 5-tool player. The guy could hit. He could hit for power. The guy could run like the wind. I don't know, almost 50 bases stolen this year. And, of course, mind you, he's a rookie. He still hit about 280, 281. He had nearly 30 home runs. The guy could throw leather, too. Man, this kid is good. He really is a 5-tool player, a runaway for the Rookie of the Year, at least in the National League. And I think even if there was an American and National, he would beat out Gunnar Henderson from the Orioles. Either way, the Arizona Diamondbacks peaking at the right time made very quick work of the Milwaukee Brewers, who had the best pitching in all of baseball remaining. And now, well, guess what? Now, those Arizona Diamondbacks are up 2-0. They beat LA twice in LA. Now they're coming home probably to finish off that series, just like with Texas. The same thing. They're coming home to finish off the series against Baltimore. So Arizona on the top of that bracket. And the bottom of that bracket, it's Philadelphia and Atlanta tied at 1 game apiece. Philadelphia is a really tough out. Atlanta's the best team in the National League, but Philadelphia is a really tough out. So, will Atlanta get by him? I still think Atlanta does get by him. That's a really tough divisional matchup, just like the Arizona and LA one. You got to remember, these are 2 divisional series in the division series, the division playoffs, right? So, you got 2 teams in the West against 2 teams in the East, right? So, they're playing each other to find out who's going to actually play for the World Series. I think it's going to be Arizona and Atlanta. I still think Atlanta's going to come out of the West. But I really believe, I actually put a little bit of money on Arizona coming out of the West with real big price. And I've got Texas beating Arizona in the World Series, although it likely will be Texas and Atlanta. Because Atlanta really is the best team in baseball, folks. Make no mistake. Those guys can play from top to bottom. They've got the best lineup in baseball. Pitching is solid. They throw leather. They're like the 5-tool team, and they have the best player in baseball in Ronald Acuna Jr. on that club. Atlanta would be hard-pressed to lose a World Series, frankly. I mean, they really should win a World Series by 4-1 or 4-0 with whoever they play. But somehow Texas is going to find themselves potentially playing in that World Series. And if Texas plays Arizona, Texas beats Arizona. If Texas plays Atlanta, Atlanta beats Texas. Either way, it's going to be one hell of a ride for these remaining divisional series and championship series and World Series games. That in itself is exciting. And, part of the Rangers' success, you could point to one player How about this? How about the 21-year-old stealing the show in this postseason? This is according to MajorLeagueBaseball.com. We're going to give credit to David Adler for writing this one. And, of course, he says from MLB.com, one of the biggest stars of the playoffs for any team, of course, is 21-year-old rookie who only got 23 big league games under his belt before the Rangers threw him into their postseason starting lineup. Gotta like that. Evan Carter is that talented. Major League Baseball's number 8 overall prospect. Just, let's face it, he just isn't earning his spot. He's stealing the show. In fact, it took him 2 games in Texas in their wild card series sweep of the Rays for Carter to put all of his tools on display. And Carter, who just reached 1 month anniversary in the big leagues in his promotion, has only kept doing it in the American League Division Series against the Orioles. Man, this kid is legit. And look, there's a whole bunch of ways you can look at him doing what he's doing, but boy, he is an exciting player. In fact, he's one of those, he's a showstopper, just like what Arizona has in Corbin Carroll. So, Corbin Carroll, your rookie of the year, well, you're not going to be able to meet Evan Carter's rookie of the year because he doesn't have enough games played. But here's a little highlight from Evan Carter. How about this? This kid is something.
Gosh, I've been on the road since, I guess, living out of a hotel since like August 22nd, I think. Since we were on the road in AA for a week, and then got called up AAA, 2 weeks on the road there, and then been living either in a hotel on the road here and a hotel in Texas. So, no, I do not have a house. I don't even know where I'm going to live this offseason, honestly. So, we're just kind of rolling, going with the flow right now. It's been awesome so far. It seems like forever ago, honestly. But no, I wouldn't have it any other way. This has been really fun so far, but it's not over with yet. We're on a roll right now, so hopefully we can keep it going. I try and approach it the same way no matter where I'm at. But honestly, especially in the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of situational hitting. There might be more runners on base in the 5-hole, when I'm hitting. So that just brings up some RBI opportunities, maybe some, small ball might come about, down the road, who knows. But just whatever the game calls for, is kind of what going to be my approach for that at bat.
Great feedback from a 21-year-old kid in the spotlight. And let's face it, it's not situational hitting only. Look, this kid's got power. He hits home runs. He hits for contact. I mean, this guy is batting .500 through his first 4 career postseason games, which is not really easy. Of course, 5 for 10, but has 3 doubles on top of his wild card series home runs. I mean, look, he's not just getting little knocks here and there. So this kid also, by the way, he has a lot of discipline. So watch out for him. His lowest chase rate, I mean, let's face it, in the postseason, this guy is only chasing 9.4% of the time, minimum of 200 out-of-zone pitches. That's pretty good for all you sabermetrics. And by the way, this kid's glove is the real deal. There's no question this kid can do it with the glove. He's exciting in every possible way. And I have to say that watching the youngsters play, it's very encouraging to be played. It's not how fast you can get away from, how fast you can get away from the stadium after the game is over. Folks, baseball should not be a timed game in the first place. No more of these pitch clocks and crap like that. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Hopefully you enjoyed the show today. We'll see you in about 23 hours. And check out all your baseball listing, college football, and hockey starts right around the corner. We'll see you soon, folks. So long, everyone.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.